Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Tonight we are going to talk about Google Cloud and the Apache Beam data flow. It is made for ETL, extraction, transformation, and loading data. And the Apache Beam, it is awesome if you are a backend developer and you need to move data from point A to point B, or if you need to transform it. Maybe you have one source that ends up in multiple destinations. Then Apache Beam is very cool and it's awesome. The good thing about data flow with Google, and also the other cloud providers, they have something like this. So it's not just Google; it's all of the data providers that have this. Then you don't have to think about scaling. So this means that when you have placed up your Apache Beam templates, and then you have created a Google Cloud data flow job, then you don't have to think about scaling. Google will actually do that for you. Of course, you have to pay for it as usual. Nothing is free, but there's a lot of things you don't have to think about. You don't have to create an application that starts up and shuts down. You just create this. You can concentrate on the flow, and you can concentrate on the pipeline, as it's called. Apache Beam Programming Guide, it is very complex, and in general, this whole concept is very complex. It's not easy, so do not get frustrated when you're stuck. This is exactly why I create this video right here, and I'm trying to focus on getting up and started. I'm not focusing on creating the pipeline itself. The pipeline itself would actually, I'll make another video where we go in depth with how to create the pipeline and what actually to do. And if you can't wait, then read the programming guide that you have right here on beamapache.org right here. And as you can see, you can actually you can because you are actually compiling into a template file, then you can use you can use Python, you can use Go and TypeScript, or you can use Java. Of course, my favorite language is, of course, is Java, so I'm going to create this with Java. So, okay, let's get started. So this was the main page right here, Beam Apache org. If you are bored, go read that one right there. Or if you're stuck, let me phrase it that way instead. Let me just show you a drawing, because I have already told you that it is actually something about compiling. So what is architecture right here? So we actually have this. We have something called data flow, which is a Google specific service right here, and this is the runner. This is the engine that will run your script, your pipeline. And when we talk about data flow, you can also use a lot of other runners. You can, for instance, use a direct local runner. This is the one you would use when you are developing. But when you are up in the cloud, then you use data flow, which is right here. Data flow will be created by using a template file. So you have your .java code right here. You have .java code right here. And of course, as usual, that compiles into class files. Usually you don't think about that. Your IDE will just do that every time you save your Java file, then you make a class file. But then you have to create. There's a Maven target that you have to run, and then after running that, then all of these classes right here will be converted and uploaded into a bucket, that you of course have to create yourself before you start. So you have to upload this to a bucket, and inside that bucket, you will have your template file generated right here. This template file will contain the pipeline. It will contain the pipeline of, that you actually defined right here. So here you define a pipeline. Here you define that first you want to step one should be get messages from pops up, maybe from pops up. So like this pops up. That means that you will actually get messages that someone has sent to you on a topic, and you will get those through a subscription. After that, then you will convert them to some kind of Java object. That's very normal. So you can convert it into a Java hash map, for instance, or maybe something more type specific. So that is step 2. So this is the second step. This was the first step right here. Then you have a third step that could be to save it onto a Firestore collection, as a Firestore collection in the default database. Maybe if you enable Firestore inside your Google project, then you will get a default database named in round brackets default. In there, then you can create multiple collections, as it's called. A collection is, if you're used to NoSQL databases, then you know what a collection is. It's just like a document where you have whatever you want inside that one. So let's say you get some JSON on your topic, and then you subscribe to that. Then you convert it to Java, and then you convert that again into a file store document. Then you also have to write it to the Firestore database itself, and you do that with something called that's a plugin. So you can have plugins to all of these, to this pipeline right here, and it's very normal that you should that the first task and the end task, that is a plugin. So this is a Firestore writer that we have right here. And it is a plugin, or you can also, that's a better name for it actually. I just forgot it right now, but it is like a plugin. So you will actually get this from Google themselves. So you don't have to write the write to collection and database code. You just have to give the parameters to this plugin right here. This whole bunch right here, this is what will be compiled into. This is what will be compiled into the template file that we have right here. When we have that template file, then we can define a data flow, and that data flow will then point and steal that template file, and then it will actually start running this. This is the data flow job that we have right here. And it will just, if you have, by default, actually, there's something called streaming that is enabled. This means that it will actually it will read the messages as soon as they come in. It will actually be, as soon as we get a message on that topic through the subscription, then we will get that message, and the pipeline will then run inside this data flow job. And then it will actually just execute all of the steps, and it will end up by writing a documents into the collection on the Firestore database, because that's what we specified in this situation right here. Of course, you can specify a lot of other stuff, and these pipelines, they can get very, very complex quite fast and quite easily. So that is also why it's important that you spend the time that it actually takes to set up a direct runner situation. That means that then you can run it locally. You don't want to deploy to an environment every time you want to see if how your pipeline actually runs. You also want to have a good logging setup. You want to set up you want to use logback, and you want to set up a good logger. You want to add some log statements in each step, so you can actually see what's going on. So logging is important. Direct runner is important. Some good tests are important. What else is important? Yeah, you need to create some. I usually create some helper tests that actually place messages on the topic. So then I can actually run a test that then dumps something on the topic, and then I can see in my direct runner log how it actually how it turns on. Do I generate any exceptions? Yeah. Of course, you also need to think about the cost. So you should actually set a maximum worker. You should actually set a maximum worker. Also, because you want to know why it suddenly takes a lot of resources to run your pipeline. Maybe you could actually optimize your pipeline instead of just paying extra to Google instead. So yes, this is the setup. It is beautiful. It's a nice drawing. Let us go to something else. Let us actually look at. I actually want to show you the final results. So let me just show you my project that I have right here. This is Mike's demo project that I have right here. And if I want to go to data flow, I just write data flow right here. Data flow. And here I have data flow. And I have a lot of data flow jobs. That's because whenever I'm deploying, I'm actually creating a new job, and then I'm just canceling the old job. The right way, when you are in production, then you want to empty the job before you actually start up the new job. And that is just an option you can set in your Terraform scripts that you want to empty. And you can see right now this job has been cancelled, and you can just set it should be empty instead. It's just because I'm impatient, so I don't want it to finish handling the messages that it already has taken in. And also sometimes, no matter how good you are at programming, then you might actually have created something that will take a long time to process, or maybe forever to process. Then it's good time. Then you have to cancel the job. But right now we have this job running right here. Right now this is a simple data flow because we have the topic messages right here. That means that we are listening for incoming messages on a certain subscription on a certain topic. And then we are enriching the Java object. That actually means that we are just converting it into a hash map. So I presume that it's JSON, then I convert it into a hash map. Then I convert it into a Firestore write document. That's what it says right here. All of these step names right here, you can define those yourself. You can set whatever you want there, right? Of course. So it should be something that is understandable, of course. Yeah. And you can also see some performance. You can see some performance metrics right here. I think I've sent 2 messages through this, so that is why you have the spike, and then you have then there's nothing afterwards. And then we have the persist in Firestore in the end. So the persist in Firestore, that is the plugin. So that is the step that has been created by a vendor, but it's by Google, of course. And the same with the topics. The first step right here, that is also a plugin. Yeah, so that is a good thing. There's a lot of plugins, and there's a lot of steps you don't have to think about. But of course, the logic steps, you have to create those yourself, and you have to determine how should the data be handled. And sometimes you want to go from one source and out to multiple destinations. I will show you how to do that in another video, because you have to. And if you can't wait, then just search for P collection tuples. Then you will find it. So this is the final result that we have right here, and we can get the log right here by showing the log files right here. And I have some nice log right here, and every time I press a step, then I get the log only generated in this step right here, and that is awesome, I think. So here we have document name set to blah blah blah. So this is where we are generating the logs. And here we can see the JSON payload. So this is a message that I've created at some point. And then have some more resources right here. Type data flow steps. We have some labels with some timestamps. What else do we have? We have the message itself, of course. Yeah, so that's actually it. Yeah, so I can also click the other steps. It is not always that they log that much. Especially the plugin steps, those or they almost never plug anything unless they fail. If they fail, they are very verbose, of course. See, this is where I enrich the data. It says here, convert this into Java object. So that means that it actually receives some JSON right here, where we can see that the spaceship type was large and the pilot is Mike, etc., etc., etc. So this is the log for this step right here, and the topic message right here. There's also there's no default logging right there, and that it makes sense that they do not spam that the defaults that the plugin steps that they don't spam the log. So this is what we want to end up with. That is quite cool. To begin with, I have to create some buckets. I'm using Terraform because it is the right thing to do, because then you don't have to sit and press create right here, and you document and you have your infrastructure as code, and that is much better than just creating something right here. There is something that you have to create. The first bucket, which is Mike's Terraform stays right here, this bucket, you have to create that manually, because or else you cannot run your Terraform scripts. Or else you have to have all of your Terraform states locally, and you definitely don't want to do that. You always want to share your states in a bucket, so you are always synchronized, or else you can get out in a lot of trouble. You can see my other video about solving conflicts in Terraform. I made another video regarding that. The other bucket right here, that is the Mike's data flow template. This is where the template files would be located. There are also some staging files. All of these are created by Apache Beam when you're compiling. Then it creates all of this stuff right here, which is just Apache Beam specific stuff. And then it ends up with one file right here that is named Mike's data flow. So this is my file right here. I can actually download it, and it is actually just XML. If I open it up, then I can see that it's just XML. Should we download it? Yeah, it's actually not XML. It is JSON. It is JSON, but it is readable. It is readable, almost readable. It is So it's a compiled file into something that you could actually read it if you want to, but it is made for data flow to it is made for the runner to read and to execute. Okay. So those are the buckets that we have right here. So then I have the subscription. So I have the pops up where I look for messages inside. So I have this. I have two. I like to create a setup both for when I run directly and when I run for in a cloud. So that means I actually have a topic for my direct runner right here. So this is only the direct runner that will listen for messages on the Dataflow Direct topic through the Dataflow Direct subscription right here. And then I have the same with Cloud Runner. There are no schemas on them, so I can dump whatever messages I want on both of these. So this is for my Cloud Runner, and the other one is for my direct runner. And this one is something I should delete. It was just something I just created for fun. Yes. So this is my pops up. This is my topic, and this is where the messages will end up on. And let us look at the destination Firestore. Firestore right here. Here we have Firestore, and this is the default database. If you don't choose any database, then you will just have one default database inside your Firestore service. And this is Firestore in native mode right here. I must admit I've actually clicked on I actually enabled Firestore through mouse clicks. I did that. That is not true. I did not do that through Terraform. It is possible to do through Terraform. You can just enable the service named Firestore, and then you can choose native mode if that's what you want. You have to choose between native mode and data store mode, and if you choose you cannot change that. You cannot change that selection. If you don't have any legacy data store stuff, then choose the native mode instead. Okay, so here we can see here are the collections. Right now there are no collections visible, so we do not have any collections. So let us actually see if we can create some by placing a message on the Cloud Runner. We could see that the Cloud Runner was actually already running. So I have created this as a unit test. So this is my project right here, and as usual, you can just download that from my GitHub account. If you want to create your own project, then you can also do that. You can actually create that also, but I would actually not recommend it, because I think what you would get is actually you can run. There's an archetype which is named beamed is the case archetypes examples right here. If you use that, then you get Apache Beam's default word count projects. I didn't like it, I must say that, but but try it out and see if it's something for you. You get a lot of profiles, so you can run the default project, the default pipeline in a lot of runners. That means you get a ton of profiles inside your Maven project, one for each runner type, and But it's okay. You can try it out if you want to. And I've left the command right there if you want to. I have actually taken this project from. There was a Google example somewhere. There was a good Google example somewhere, and then I have built on top of that. So it is part Google example, and then part something where I just added stuff, and I've deleted a lot of profiles, and there's a lot of things I'm not using that I've not deleted. There was some Kafka I'm not using right now, but I might build that on top afterwards. But the basic stuff are here, and all the basic dependencies are here. This one I think I could just delete, because I actually have the default runner. There's some Handcrest for testing if you want to do this. There's also Mockito. Actually, I don't like Mockito because you end up testing something that is actually not your code. But that was just a side remark. Okay, so now, just for fun, to see something happen, let us now dump a message on the project Mike's demo on Dataflow Cloud Runner. So that is the topic ID. And I'm going to dump this payload right here, Mike's payload right here, spaceship medium. That could be medium large instead, and the pilot name could be Brian instead, and the fuel left could just be 58%. It's just so you can see that this is actually our values right here. Venus, we could go to Pluto instead. So this is the payload that we want to dump, and this is the code. If this is just Google pops up code, and you can find this on Google's webpage. It's very easy to find, and it's actually very easy to publish a message to to a topic with Google. The code is very it's very concise. So we just publish the message right there, and I've actually made it as an array. So we could actually have placed more payloads right here, but today we want to keep it simple. So we just want to dump one message. Let's see what happens. Yes. And the way that I'm authenticated here is actually with I am authenticated. I can not just go around. You cannot just go around and place messages on people's topics without actually having access. So you need to run this line right here, Google Cloud Auth login. If you use Terraform, then you also have to log in twice, also with the application defaults. So this is just the name of the JSON file that will be created when you for that, and this one will be used by Terraform when you log in like this. So this one is so your unit test runs and works, and this one is for Terraform, so your Terraform scripts actually works. Let us go look at the here we have Firestore. So first of all, let's see if we get something. Yes, look here, we have this collection now, Cloud Run, and we have this message right here, medium large. Pilot is Brian, fuel left is 58.23. Destination is Pluto. So everything went fine in this example right here, right? We have these fields right here. We have a collection with this document right here. We are very, very happy. That is awesome. Just for fun. And it's actually very fast. That's also, I'm always impressed with the speed. It just happens instantaneously. So let us try again with number 1 right here. We run again. And now we got a second message right here. Of course, I could have changed the values. I actually did, yes, because now it's destination Mars. The pilot is Mike. Yes, I'm happy. And the spaceship type is large. So that is a little bit more there. So now we're doing the, now let us start the direct Cloud Runner. Let us start that one up. So this is the one that we want to use when we are programming and when we are setting up stuff. And I'll show the code right here. I'll not go into the pipeline code itself. I will show you that in another video. But here we have a main. It's a normal main class that we have right here. We have something called custom options, and you have to create this class when you want to use your own options and not just the options on the Dataflow pipeline options. There's a lot of options right there, and I'll try not to go into it. It's very tempting because there's a lot of cool stuff, of course, inside the Dataflow pipeline options. But this is my custom options. I have a subscription. This is where I want to listen for the messages from. Some of these properties, I actually did not have to make those if I didn't want to. I could have reused the Dataflow pipeline options, but I wanted to make sure, especially when I'm dealing with something new, that this is my option and I can actually treat it and put in whatever I want to. But here we have these value providers right here. So it's an interface, as you can see right here, interface custom options, and then you have to create a value provider and you have to create a getter, and you have to create a setter per option that you want to store. You don't have to use a value provider if you don't want to, but I think this is the most flexible one because then you will not get any errors. Then you will actually. This means when you're using a value provider, this means that you will actually provide the value at runtime. You do not have it. You do not have a compile time. You have it runtime, and this is exactly what you want when you want data flow to actually run, because data flow will get its configuration from how it has been set up, right, from the job description. And that is runtime that it will actually get that information and take that information. Yeah, so that is why we have the value provider right there. And yeah, then we have the project name. I know I didn't need this one because there's actually a get projects on the data flow pipeline options. So I might refactor that and delete that in the future, but right now it's there. We both have a get project name. We also have a get project ID. Then we have the get Firestore collection. That is the collection name. That is why you can see that the collection name actually changes from direct. You can see that there's a cloud run right now, and then if I run from my local runner, then you will see that it's named something but direct runner. Yeah. So these are my options. Let us go back to the direct runner right here, and I create a new pipeline options from the factory, and I need to use, this is the incoming arguments. That means that if we place some arguments on the main, then those will also be used. And then we say convert that or cast that into custom options. And that's it actually. And then we say, because I know that I don't want to use the command line args to set all of those options up. I just want to hardcode them when I'm running locally, right? I just want to hardcode them, and that is exactly what I do in this configure direct run right here. Here I have hardcoded all of the settings right here. The project and project name, and they are actually the same right now, except for project is actually not a value provider. That is a value. That is a string. Then we have here we have, that was the subscription, yeah. And if you want to use a constant as value, then you can use value provider, static value provider. That means that this will always be this one when you run locally, and that's fine. And then you have your direct run, that is the name of the collection. Temp location. If you don't set the temp location, especially when you compile, then you will get an extra bucket created by it's actually because of the Google's data flow pipeline options that you will actually get an extra bucket. You can try to remove this one by yourself and also remove it from the compiler line. We will run the compilation soon, but let us just start up this main right here. And here we have the pipeline, and I'm creating my whole pipeline in this pipeline factory. This is my class right here, and I'll try not to show too much of it in this video. And then what we do right here is that we actually run until finish, and it will never finish. That means it will actually run forever, and it has actually already started up. You can see right here, it has started up right here. We get some beautiful warnings that I'm trying to use Java 20, but it is actually falling back to 17 and cute things like that. But it's still running, so that is good. I'm using IntelliJ, and I'm using the service view right here. You can press Alt-8 to get the service view opened up. If you haven't tried the service view, you should definitely do that. You can have all of your things that you run, like Docker, all of your applications, all of your NPM tasks. You can just have them all right here. Let me just add NPM actually. I'll do that because we also need that. Here I can see that here I have my NPM runs right here. So it's every time you press Control twice, then you can also run all of this stuff right here, of course. Here I can say import if I want to run that one, of course, but I don't want to do that now. So now we have started the direct runner. Let us try to put a message into onto the topic that the direct runner is listening to, and it is listening to this one right here, data flow direct. So we actually have a test for that right here, data flow direct, and I press Alt-Z, so we go to the send mode. This means that I'll just show the code, and we are placing payload 1 to that topic, and then we will see what actually happens. So let us run. See what happens. Yeah, everything went okay, and then we go back to the direct runner main. And look at this beautiful output right here, right? This is all of the stuff. This is me logging out that now I am converting this into a Java object, and I've received that already. And it is and you can also see on the timestamp how fast it is. It's incredible. It is really fast. Here we have the create document apply. That is the plugin. Oh, sorry, that is me creating the document, and then it actually writes it in the end. So that is quite cool. Let us go back to let's go back to the cloud. So this is the cloud. Let us refresh the page to see. Did we really get? Yes, we got a new collection right here. This is my new document. Mars, Mike Large. Yes, that's good. And we got some kind of ID right here. So we are happy. We are very, very happy. And all of this, I know it sounds. What about all the resources, Mike? How did you create the topics and the subscriptions and the buckets and all that with Terraform? I'll show that just shortly. Or else I'll try to wrap up the video and then I'll show you the content of the pipeline itself in the next video. Here we have Terraform. You should always have this structure right here where you have environments, you have modules, and you should always use a backend. You should never use local files, local state files. You need always to place the Terraform state files inside a bucket or somewhere where it's central. So always, if you don't have a backend, then I'll say that you have failed the Terraform test. You should always you can just as well do that to begin with. So that's that's just how it is. Or else then I have all of my things right here. So this is my data flow job. This is the description right here. I have a name. That is my name for my data flow job. And as you can see right here, I'm using a random ID. And why do I do that? That's because I want a new data flow every time I've created a new template. Then I want a new job to spin up and the old job to stop. And that means that the new job just needs a new name. And then Terraform will actually stop the other one. And you can actually see right here on delete. Right now it's canceled, but you could just there's one named empty or something like that. You have to look up the value in the documentation, but you can wait until empty or something like that instead. And yes, we want to enable a streaming engine. We want this data flow need to react as soon as a message ends up on the topic. Template, GCS path, this is where we have all the template files. Those are located there. Templates, this is temporary. This is temporary files and template files. And that is just to give those locations right there. The template file, that's very important. This is actually the most important one because that is the script for what should actually happen. So, and right now it's located under templates, and then Mike's data flow and the bucket name is what we saw before, Mike's data flows or something like that. Mike's data flow templates, that was the name, yeah. And here we have the parameters. All of these parameters right here, this is important. Those have to match the custom options that you have right here. So all of these, you set those with the parameters right here in your Terraform script. So you have the subscription, you have the project, you have the project name, you have the cloud run, that was the Firestore collection right here, and this is the temp location. If you don't give the temp location, then Google's data flow pipeline options is so nice that it will create a new bucket every time. It will spam you with empty buckets, and it's really annoying. Yeah, so that is the Terraform script. Okay, so how do we compile? How do we compile and create that template file? That is probably what you sit and ask right now. I'll just show that to you. You run a Maven command, and I have it right here. Of course, you could sit and click it through inside your ID if you want to, but of course, as usual, it is easier to use a task from the package.json file. So this is an npm task. So then you can say npm compile exec Java right here. And then you give a main class. This is the cloud runner that you want to use right here. And this also means that you can actually have multiple runners in your, or multiple pipeline setups, because this is actually not a runner. I should actually say this should be the pipeline main or something like instead, because this means that I could actually tweak the settings a little bit. I could run different pipelines from the same project. I don't have to create a new project per pipeline if I don't want to. That means that I can actually reuse my code, and I would actually definitely recommend that you do so. So this should not be it should not be runner. It should be pipeline instead. But I'll refactor it at some point. And then you need to add this. It is a data flow runner when you're dealing with Google, so you just have to add this one right here. If you are using another runner with another cloud provider, then you just place that right there. I've forgotten the other of the other runner names right now. We can look at that at Apache Beam's page in the end. Then the project name right here, Mike's Demo, and this is what I told you before. I actually did not have to make my own project name option. I could just have reused this one right here, but that's just how I set it up. This one right here, staging location, this is where while compiling, then Apache Beam needs a place where it dumps all of the a lot of weird files. It will dump those until it can create the final template, which will then be placed in this bucket location right here. So that means it will generate a lot of weird files, and then it will end up and it'll put them all together, and it will end up in this template file right there. And here we have the temp location. If you don't add this, if you leave out this one right here, then you get spammed with empty buckets, and it's really annoying. And I still don't understand why, because it doesn't make sense. But that's just how it is. So yeah, let us run it and see that we actually get some files being created right here. Yes, a lot of things are happening. We are creating a lot of stuff. We should actually have gone to buckets first. Buckets. I guess you can see on the timestamp that the files are new. Data flow. We go to staging right here. Then we should be able to see very soon. It's actually done now. Okay. Okay, we have more files. 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 We have a lot of files. We could also just sort on. But the creation it has actually okay. Last modified. I would have expected maybe reuse the staging files actually. Maybe it did that. The most important thing is that we have a template file right here, and that is right now, that has been updated, so now it's last modified to now. So that is quite good. We got a new file. I'm happy. So this is the flow, and you have not seen the pipeline yet. I'll show an example of that in the next video. But thank you very much for watching. Have a great evening, and I hope to see you again very soon. Bye-bye.